Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to continue my review of individual Beatles songs. And today it's the turn of And Your Bird Can Sing from Revolver. This is my Indian pressing of Revolver with the full 14 tracks, luckily, in pretty good condition on the yellow parlophone there. One of the interesting things about living in Hungary is picking up Indian pressings. They must have had some arrangement where they ship stuff to Hungary at a slightly lower price than UK imports or something, but some of the labels and packaging is slightly different, so that's interesting. This song tends to get overlooked, in my opinion, underappreciated. Lennon, as we know, always dismissive of his own work in the Playboy interviews. When asked about this song, another one of my throwaways is the only remark he could come up with. I think it's because lyrically he thought this was a bit meaningless, and he preferred his later work where he was more introspective or talking about Yoko or something more meaningful. And Your Bird Can Sing, apart from the fact the word bird he might have later thought was sexist or something, because it was slang for girlfriend in England at the time. Quite an interesting illustration of this song in the Alan Aldridge book. The illustration done by Steve Bobroff in this wonderful book, which I showed you in an earlier review. So first thing to note, this song came out in Revolver, but 3 songs, the US version of Revolver had 3 less Lennon songs because they nicked 3 of the songs early to put them on this compilation, and what was originally the Butcher sleeve and then became this cover, Yesterday and Today. So luckily Beatles albums, US and UK, were in sync after Revolver, but around this time they were still meddling with stuff with unfortunate consequences. Carr and Tyler do a wonderful review of Revolver, and it's 2 or 3 pages long, and they say that Dr. Robert and Your Bird Can Sing and She Said are 3 of Lennon's best tunes. I personally think it musically, maybe lyrically, it's not much, but even though Ian MacDonald points to the lyrics saying Lennon elaborates the hipper-than-thou psychedelic omniscience of rain, taunting the limitations of the analytical mind, which, no matter how educated, can never comprehend creativity. A little bit pretentious reading of the song maybe, but I'm sure Lennon thought he was, smarter than a lot of the people around him, and You Don't Get Me was the original title of the song when they were recording it, and that was a theme he returned to in the Rolling Stone interview about You Don't Get Me Twice, because he felt he'd been duped by the whole Fame Beatles thing, to an extent anyway. So yeah, I love the musicianship of this song, the superb guitar. How does MacDonald describe them? I'm not sure. They're kind of thirds apart and they're going up the scale. That wonderful riff at the beginning of the song. And we think that it's jointly played by Harrison and McCartney. We're not 100% sure of that. You see, when people interview McCartney, they never ask him interesting questions like that. They could easily nail down, maybe he doesn't remember, but they could at least ask him what he played on various tracks, because the jury's still out there on some of this, and that's one of them. There's a hilarious version on the anthology, an earlier version because the final version was recorded on the 26th of April, 1966, and the first version was recorded on the 20th. And it's a little bit rough around the edges, but you can see they're getting the feel of it. But something is making John and Paul collapse into absolute hysterics, particularly McCartney. You can hear him laughing his head off, and we're not quite sure what the cause of that was, but probably a joint or 2 was involved. But that's really, I think Anthology 2 is the best of the 3. if I had to pick, just because maybe the Let It Be stuff on Anthology 3 has been bootlegged to death over the years, so that was not too new, and the Isha demos similarly. But Anthology 2 came up with some really good stuff: Revolver outtakes, Help outtakes, Rubber Soul outtakes, and as I say, that's the one I go back to the most often. It's worth noting Paul's, I could describe as a harmony vocal, but he's basically singing a joint lead vocal on the verse, singing the higher part to tremendous effect. John and Paul's harmony singing on this song is, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. I did a video of the top John and Paul harmonies, but I'm not sure if I even mentioned this song. But one tends to forget how many songs that was featured on, and this is one of the very best. Just reminds me, on the Anthology version, the alternative words in the middle 8, John sings, "When your bike is broken, will it bring you down?" It's a little over 2 minutes, this song, quite short, as a lot of songs on Revolver. Still, before they got, apart from Tomorrow Never Knows, before they got extravagant with the length of a song, they kept it economic. And a track like For No One, for example, is little over 2 minutes as well. And this is one of Lennon's best rockers, and although one can see Lennon and McCartney kind of diverging in terms of style on this album, and that was to become more pronounced, they're still joined at the hip on Revolver, and that, for that reason, it's many people's favourite Beatles album. And rockers in Lennon's mid to late period, I'd say few and far between, but it's great when they do come along, because one misses that side of John a little bit, and in his solo career as well, that would be the case. So John may have thought another one of my throwaways. I think this is an outstanding album track, if not single material, an outstanding album track, as a lot of the stuff on Revolver is. Worthy of the Beatles' name, and I love this song to bits. Thank you for watching. See you next time.